I'm a software engineer with the deep experience in design cloud architecture. I'm helping my team in building application that provides well-designed API. And what I do every day is to create the right mindset based on approach API first. I try to drive the message that API can be a product that can generate not only value but also gain. My current organization is international, and it is composed by multiple identity, with only one target: create value from communication and data. In detail, I'm a member of digital integration team that builds services that can facilitate the data exchange and integration between all the company applications. I have also the opportunity to join the team that contributed to define and spreading standard and best practice in building and manage cloud native application for all teams inside the company. My experience taught me that managing API means not only writing and publish code, but defining governance, and first step to start to create API is exactly find the right way to govern and manage all the API lifecycle. Talking about governance for API, I mean that work with API means not only design them, but also create the documentation, decide how to monitoring them, how to distribute, how to check their performance and health check. This become more true when you start to design API with the architecture microservices oriented. In this case, governance, it's important to permit to follow all the life cycle, and overall, it's important that every step in governance API must be driven by the right guideline that must fit also the process with which the API are delivered and built. For this journey, I found a very amazing colleague that are very open to compare our different mindset, and that bring me in the history of the company, because every product has its history. And before to start to introduce something new, it's important to know the history and how this product born, and the reason that create this ecosystem in the application company. My first project in the new company is related exactly in redesign an existing application. And during this redesign phase, the breaking change is the fact that we are trying to think API first. Then, when we will define all the services that the current version of application needs, we are ready to start to develop this API. That's why the most important step in API governance is exactly the design phase. Because when you are able to design the API, means that you know your stakeholder, your API strategy, and so you're able to define the contracts, or in other words, the way in which API can exchange data with other part of the system. What I'm doing in this company is share the importance of design, the step of design in during API governance, because a well-designed API means save cost in their maintenance, because you don't need to rethink, redesign, rewrite code. But when you define well an API, documented it, distribute documentation before to start to write code, means that your API is already tested by the consumer. Another thing that you can gain when you use the API first approach and when you will design your API is to choose with the right information that tech stack that you want to use. Because if you are able to know who is the consumer of your API, you are able also to predict the requests in terms of performance that API needs. API governance means not only design, create documentation, create the code, deploy and publish the API, but means also observe through the right monitoring tools cost and performance to optimize performance and make our consumer happy, but also to save costs and make our stakeholder happy the same, but for other reason, of course. As mentioned before, I started to design cloud application more than 10 years ago. But the real revolution, or maybe I can say the evolution of my mindset, happens when I discovered that API is the topic of a fully conference, like API Day conference. So I discovered the importance of this part of program, because at the beginning, when I designed an application, I thought, okay, we needed to create the front end, we needed to design the back end. Now, after discovering that exists the API first approach, when I design application, what I start to do, I think 4 years ago, was mainly to think the API that my application needs. Then I started to think how to consume that API. This is something. This API first approach becomes so common because during the last year we can create a lot of type of application that can consume an API. An API can be consumed by a web application, can be consumed by a mobile application, but also other API can consume other API. So if you find the right services that you want offer to the world or for internal use, as I said before, you are able to create a product, not only a services, and so you can able to sell this type of product as a services. My goal is try to share inside, but also out of the company, writing posts or I don't know, do speaking activity to share the importance of API governance when your company treats API like a product. API is not only write code and publish that code, but API means create the right logging system, log the right information, especially when your architecture is composed by a different microservices. And when you want to discover how this API interact inside these microservices, you need to create the distributed, you need to put in place a distributed logging system. It's important the data that you put in this log. Another thing is monitoring the performance, because if you don't do that, you can waste money because you overdimension the services, or you can have a bad consumer experience because your system not responds as the user needed to have. One of the first things that you need to ask before to start to design API is if the API is the strategy for the API. It is for internal use, it is for protected use or internal, it is for public use or a completely private use inside the company. The fund strategy is important because based on that decision, you can decide how type of security you need. And also, which is the best services that you can use to build your API. And when you decide the strategy, you can decide also, in the case of the API is public, how to create money with this API. I talked about the importance of API governance. That is a topic that I'm trying to put in place in my new company because they don't worry about that. And so they create a simple application with backend and front end. And I introduce the concept that backend is not backend, but is an API, is a set of services that you can offer to your application. And today is only for consume for your application, but in the future, this API can become something that you can sell and create value, not only for the customer, but also for the stakeholders that can create richness from that. I'm working in redesign some old application using the API first approach, and also in create documentation to share API mindset inside the company, and overall the best practice for governance about API and cloud architecture in generally, because it's true that we are talking about API, but often the API are developed and designed thinking them like a microservices architecture. And you can build a microservices architecture very often using cloud provider services. So I'm trying to define the right standard, the right guideline that we can follow inside our company and that we can share between all the teams in the company. After joining my first APIday conference, I think that was 2018, I started to read posts, follow specialized channel, and read, of course, book. And after that, I was very lucky because I worked in a company with colleagues inside the team that want to start this journey inside the API first approach together with me. And so the evolution of my mindset involved also other people in my previous company. And what I can say is that the main source of my knowledge, my current knowledge, is in the experience. Because only when you fail and then retry it, and fail, retry it, and then it works, you can learn something of truly real. And the best lesson for me is that without API governance, you can lose very fast the control about the API. Another thing is that yes, it's true that you can find a lot of documentation in specialized channel, in blog, in posts, in book, and so on. Then you find the right information in the experience, but I believe in the value of the communities and how much important it is to share with people that come from different experience what you know, and try to find the right inspiration from experience that come from other people. For this reason, it's true that I continue to buy books, follow specialized channel, but first of all, what I do is join specialized events and join specialized community, meetup, and so on. One of that community, of course, is the Women API community that is not only tech, that permit me not only to grow in technical stuff, but also in all aspect of my people, of my person. But to take the conclusion, as a person, but overall like an engineer, I feel always the need to go out of my comfort zone to learn new something or discover that also my experience can inspire someone else. So share and learn from others is the best way to grow himself. The best way to learn is the experience, community, and sharing personal experience and learn from other people's experience. It's important to be a part of a community when the community is able to share with you something and you are able to share something with the community. It's a bidirectional exchange of information, exactly like API. You exchange data and information. In this case, in the community, you exchange experience. First of all, following specialized conference and channel. Then I joined community that talk about that. And first of all, experiment, a lot of experiment with all the new documentation that I can find in internet. And so I try to be always in touch with the new and the new technology, the new approach, studying, and experiment.